It looked like our participant number has stabilized, so we'll go ahead and get started. Of course, this is being recorded, and so if you have to dip out a little early or if you miss any portion or want to review any portion of this webinar, this will be posted to the Minds Admissions YouTube channel um, in a couple of days, and we welcome you to check it out there, or of course you can email us if you have any questions following the webinar, anything that we didn't get to in the live Q&A. The two honors program email addresses are there on the screen right now, thorson@minds.edu and grandeyhonors@minds.edu. We do monitor those email inboxes throughout admission season, and your message will not be lost if you send it to those, as opposed to if you email CJ or myself personally, and it will end up in the black hole of our inboxes. So go ahead and use those program specific email addresses if you have any questions following the webinar or at any time during admission season. CJ, do you want to get us started?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yes, if my voice will get started. Hi, everybody. We're so glad that you're joining us today. My name is CJ McClelland, and I direct our Grandey First Year Honors Program. And I'll let the other folks here introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead and jump in.
I'll go next. My name is Lauren Shumaker. I'm the director of Thorson First Year Honors. And let's hear next from Katie and then from Ryan.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Katie Essenberg. I'm a senior in quantitative biosciences and engineering. This will be almost 4 years since I was in Grandey, but I'm still very connected as the lead TA.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan. I am a junior also in quantitative biosciences and engineering. So it'll be 3 years since I've been in Thorson, but I still definitely see it coming back in every part of my life, and I can't wait to talk about that. So yeah.
Great. Well, before we jump into the some specifics here, we do want to just take a few moments to talk about what we mean by honors at Colorado School of Mines. Because it is a bit different than perhaps what you're used to for what you've been dealing with right now in your high schools. So honors is not a single subject, deep dive, fast-paced, harder class. It's not something that will detour you from your courses of study or from your major. And it's also not something that people do simply to just get a line on their resume. It at Minds, it's a way to go deeper and to go broader, and it's something that you drive on your own. We like to focus a lot on experiences. We take an interdisciplinary approach. That means that we like to combine things that may not necessarily seem the same at once, say a science and a humanities topic, right? But we find those connections and we use those to bring more context to the things that you're studying and the things that you hope to do. We really love to focus on open-ended projects that gives you the opportunity to develop your creativity. And we are also communities beyond the classroom. We like to strive to be more than just a class. So first year honors then is that community. It's a series of opportunities, and it's also a class. So it's a class that students will spend their first 2 semesters in, and we're going to talk quite a bit about those in just a bit. It's a community of people who share a similar drive, a curiosity, a love for learning. And it's also opportunities that span from events that we do together on campus, like movie nights and philosophy club, to field trips like Meow Wolf, to even getting the opportunity to participate with your classmates in places beyond Mines. So we'll focus first here a little bit on the class. So there are two different flavors of first year honors, right? Um, we like to call them flavors. The community and the opportunities are shared between these two pathways, between these two flavors, but the difference lies in the class. These classes, however, also are similar. So we have students in the class both in the fall and the spring semester of the first year. They both replace the same two core classes, which is Nature and Human Values and Introduction to Design or Cornerstone. Both of our classes combine design, communication, and ethics. But where they differ is in the perspectives and the approach that we take on these topics. Before we get into the details here, know that regardless of the flavors that you choose, that There's no extra coursework. There's no extra time needed to be a part of this program, and you will get very similar opportunities. All right, so let's jump in. First, we'll talk about the class called Grandey Leadership by Design. In Leadership by Design, we explore engineering, design, communication, and how those things intersect with leadership and society. It's for students who want to consider the connections that exist between design and ethics, and communication and leadership. We like to cultivate skills and mindsets and capabilities that'll help you go out and address the big, complex, messy challenges that are out there. And these things are both technical and social. So to have an impact upon these sorts of messy challenges, we need scientists and engineers who can understand them, as well as people who are leaders who can tell the stories of these challenges and get people excited at getting involved or get people excited about pursuing their designs. So we like to focus on what is good leadership? What is good design? How can we tell the story best? How do we find opportunities? How do we determine which problems to even work on? And then also, what is your place within there? Like who am I as a leader and a communicator and a thinker and a creator? Right. So we like to really dig deeply into these through projects that we do, as well as the activities that we do each day in class. So in Grandey, we meet twice a week in smaller studio sections and then once a week with everyone together. And during that time together, we'll do a variety of things, everything from discussing things that we've read or watched, practicing skills like design or CAD, or learning about design process steps, prototyping our ideas, learning about ways to communicate, right? So there's a broad variety of things that we do in these studios. And then once a week, when we're all together, we'll come together to really dig into leadership and also to hear from guest speakers, both from across campus and then also from industry as well. In the first semester, we start with focusing on objects and we learn how to design something and move through that design process by designing something that moves, a moving object for someone else who is in the class. This gives you the opportunity to learn how to use our Labriola Makerspace. It also gives you the opportunity to learn how to lead yourself through a design process and how to take yourself beyond, say, Lego instructions, right? And really figure out how to design and make something on your own. Then in the second half of that first term, we'll dig deeper. We'll still think about objects, and we'll start first with what they are, what they're made of, maybe how they're designed. But then we really dig in and we investigate how those objects affect people, how they affect society, and how society also affects the designs that we make. And by the end, we've learned lots of different ways to communicate and lots of different stories about these objects, and we'll communicate those stories through writing, through drawing, through CAD. We've had people create movies, dances, etc. So then in the spring semester, we move from this object focus and we start to think bigger. We think about dreaming and designing and how can we use our design and leadership skills with a team of people now and use those to design towards looking at these big, messy problems. So first we'll work together in our teams on how to research these big problems and how develop a way to share what these problems are and how to get people excited about that problem, right? And really think, you're trying to persuade people to solve it. And then you put on your future thinking hat and you get to develop a vision of what is a thriving future based on that problem. And we create artifacts from the future. So we're back to objects, but we're designing objects that will exist in a better future. And that in turn is a way of leadership to help people get excited about that vision. So, that's a lot, right? So if you're sitting there wondering, well, is this for me? Grandey Leadership by Design is for people who are curious about leadership, but you don't need to be a leader. You don't need to consider yourself a leader. You just need to have the desire to learn how to lead yourself better and how to lead others. It's for people looking to dig deeper and maybe even dig broader into your interests and relate that to what you hope to do with your career. It's for people who are intrigued at the possibility of combining design and leadership with communication and ethics. And it's for people who want to take a creative approach to assignments as we dig into these things. I'll leave you with one thought, and these are thoughts from our alumni. They've said that leadership by design gives them tools that they can use to keep growing, right? So the big things they said they learned is how to design for big problems, how to think systematically, how to ask better questions, work in a team, how to communicate in lots of different ways, and also how to stretch their creativity muscles, how to cultivate their creativity. So I hope this sounds exciting to you, and I can't wait to answer your questions. Before we move on, I'd like to invite Katie now to tell you a little bit about her experiences within Grandey.
Yeah, thank you so much, CJ. I would say that I champion the outlook that anybody can be a leader. And I think this class really emphasizes that. I even came from a place where I believed myself to be a leader. I was coming from Girl Scouts and doing student council. And I really wanted to develop those skills, but I just didn't know how much I'd be developing them within this course because you begin laying the bricks, the brick by brick, to create this leadership style that is beneficial to you and others. And that truly begins in that first semester where you begin leading yourself. And I think this largely develops that creative mindset and those technical skills as you are designing something. I had never taken a course that was anything like Grandey before. And so it was jumping into deep water that I was unfamiliar, but it was so exciting to do that same thing with other students who were just starting their journey at Mines. Besides that, as you get into that second semester, you develop those skills even further as you begin leading both yourself and a team. And you really harness that goal of this is leadership and we are leading each other rather than you are at the top of this hill and you're guiding everyone. It's really like meant to be a team moment. And I think that brings me to my favorite part of Grandey, which was like Wicked Stories and Grand Challenges, where we dive deep into these big problems that the world is dealing with today. They're real world problems. And we really break it down bit by bit and we understand different perspectives. And we look at a problem holistically rather than how, as we as engineers, can we tackle this just through technical design or through systems thinking. We're also thinking, what are the ethics behind this? How can we aid people to the best of our ability? And what perspectives are we missing? Because that's something super important as you are working through your time at Mines and into your future as a scientist, engineer, wherever you're going. It's important to see the perspectives that you might be missing when you're thinking about designing something. So I think Grandey really changed the trajectory of where my Mines journey was going. And it led me to a great community of people. I still have best friends that are from Grandey, and we still hang out to this very day, and we're actually graduating together. So I think it's a great opportunity. It's been an amazing journey.
Thanks, Katie. All right, let's move on to a world of ideas. Lauren, would you like to tell us more?
I would love to. Thank you, CJ. I always love hearing from students when they're graduating and still friends with their folks from first year honors. It really is an amazing community. And I talk to so many students who are like, yep, I'm still roommates with my friend that I met in ideas in my first year and things like that. So it is a really wonderful way to forge those lifelong friendships right from your first semester at Mines. But my goal right now is to help you understand the Thorson flavor of the first year honors opportunity. And so, as CJ mentioned, and you're taking in a lot of information, so I'll just reiterate. Whether you do Thorson or Grandey first year honors, the coursework occupies fall semester and spring semester. It's one course that you take across the year, and it replaces existing required core curriculum courses, which are our introductory sort of communication and ethics course, which Mines calls Nature and Human Values, and our introductory engineering design course, which we call Cornerstone Design. And so if you're in Thorson first year honors, you'll be taking ideas instead of those, and ideas stands for innovation and discovery in engineering, arts, and sciences. And maybe you can guess from the title of the class that this is an interdisciplinary approach that particularly elevates perspectives from the arts. Immediately, I want to dispel any anxieties that you need to be an artist to be a Thorson student. That is not the case. We do definitely give students opportunities to express themselves creatively in the visual arts, the performing arts, any of those spaces that they might be passionate about. But you do not have to be an artist to adopt the perspectives and the mindsets of an artist. And in addition to that, when we say the arts, we are talking more broadly about the humanities as a whole. So we're also incorporating perspectives from anthropology, particularly in the context of design, where you're really trying to understand a community and observe a community closely in order to design effectively for that community. We integrate perspectives from architecture in thinking about the design of spaces and how space is something that kind of shapes our behavior and our experience and even our sort of consciousness as humans, but also that we as humans, of course, shape those spaces, whether that's from a design perspective or simply as users and participants in the space. This interaction between self and place becomes a theme throughout the year as we move in this trajectory from initially a very introspective approach to the self, thinking about our values, thinking about our perspectives, what makes us who we are, how that may be connected to or rooted in places that helped shape us as we grew up. And then moving from there into thinking about our local community, the Mines community, how that is now, something that is continuing to shape us and that we have agency in shaping as well. So then we engage with sort of a local community from a design perspective of what is my agency here as a participant, as a first year student? How can I enact some change? How can I understand this place and improve upon it? And then we move outward even further, thinking about the community that exists in the city of Golden. And that's what the students are working on right now in spring semester. We start with a really deep dive research and storytelling project that we call the Invisible Archive Project, telling invisible stories of this place, trying to understand it on multiple levels, trying to bring those stories to light, and then using those stories as an inroad into design, into understanding what are actually impactful opportunities for design intervention in this community that are going to potentially see beyond just kind of surface level, band-aids for solutions that may be obvious at first glance, but looking into something a little bit more deeply and thinking more about how do we really engage with the communities here and bring those problems and those opportunities into a creative and innovative space. So throughout this time, we are engaging both in this sort of project-based learning approach where 2 days a week, students are getting together as a large group of students with 2 faculty and 2 TAs in the classroom for a lot of kind of energy and opportunities to share ideas and hear from different perspectives. But then we reserve 1 day per week for a sort of closer discussion in a smaller group. So that would be 20 students, a single faculty member, and a single TA getting into a seminar style discussion of a topic that doesn't have an easy answer, that can't be delivered in a lecture, that has to really be kind of investigated and taken apart by the students themselves as we try to make meaning of ideas that come forward from literature and again from these other perspectives of the humanities and the arts. And that those topics and those conversations can then inform the design work that we do on the other sort of project-oriented days. So you have this kind of structure where you get to know the students in your seminar section very well and that professor very well, and then you also have an opportunity to get to know the students in the broader cohort and really share those ideas and benefit from their experience in the other paired section. I could talk forever about the different projects that we do and the ways that students engage in this class, but I want to give Ryan an opportunity to share her experience from ideas and what has stuck with her over these years. Go ahead, Ryan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. Yeah, I just want to kind of jump back to 3 years ago. So before I even came into Mines, and as I was looking ahead at college, I kind of I love science, I love STEM, and that's why I'm at School of Mines, obviously. But there was kind of this other part of me that I felt like I was going to be giving up when I came to Mines, and that was the sort of creative, artistic side of me. I love reading, I love writing, all of those sorts of things. And finding this program, I came across this program kind of by happenstance, and I immediately was like, that's perfect for me because I needed that balance going into a new era of my life. And one of the moments that really stood out to me from my first year from Thorson, she's become one of my favorite authors, but Terry Tempest Williams is kind of a prevalent author in the interdisciplinary space of exploring landscape and our interaction with that. She's written some really incredible pieces, but I remember one of our assignments in class was to read one of her pieces, and it kind of changed my mindset on a lot of things. And then at the end of the year, she actually came to campus and gave a talk, and it kind of was this full circle moment of getting exposed to authors that have changed my life, and then getting to be right in front of her and hear her speak, and that has kind of driven a lot of my goals in life. But yeah, kind of going back to Lauren outlining the structure, we can talk about that for a second. Like she kind of mentioned, the beginning of the first semester will be a lot of kind of central focus, or individual focus. One of my favorite projects that we got to do was a writing piece called The Autobiography of Place, which kind of in a similar vein to Terry Tempest Williams's writing. It's an exploration of a place that has had an impact on you through various different lenses, whether it's, attachment via, your family or cultural heritage or those sorts of things. And it really was a chance to connect with who I was, and I brought a lot of my own values and explored a lot of my own values within that project, which really helped drive who I was. I was able to show up better as a leader in future projects. One of my favorite projects from the second semester was a I believe it was the final project where a group of 4 students and we really dug into Golden as a space and as sort of this working entity, and looked at how could we design sort of a community centered festival, kind of pairing the outdoors and access and creativity all into one setting, and looking at how that might look. We never actually got to run the festival, but we did all the the research in the background and understanding the community to be able to pitch a proposal for that project. I'd love to see it happen, but that's kind of the amazing thing about honors is you can, at least in Thorson and Grandey, you can come up with these big ideas and really start to think about what they might actually look like, which is what I loved about it. And I've really brought that into a lot of experiences that I've had on the more technical STEM side. One instance was this past semester, actually. Well, backtracking more, this past summer, I was able to participate in undergraduate research through a program called SURF, which are other great opportunities that are also housed within the honors program at Mines. But I was working on injectable gels that sort of mimic the inside of injury sites, so doing biological work with cell cultures and that sort of thing. And one of the things that really helped me when I got to the point of presenting my research was going back to what I learned in Thorson, and that kind of communication aspect of telling a story about the work that you're doing and telling a story to different audiences. I remember I had two judges. One of them was a very high up organic chemistry teacher or professor at Mines, and the other one was a librarian. So approaching, how can I communicate this story to different people through, you know, who have varying backgrounds. And I think that really, it was a challenge that I felt better prepared to tackle as a result of exploring those different perspectives during my time in Thorson. One thing I can say is I still, like I said, carry a lot of the lessons I learned in Thorson with me. I still absolutely love reading, writing, and it showed me that I could have a balance of those things, even at a very intense engineering school. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And yes, that balance is really important. We hear from students all the time that they appreciate, this is in both Thorson and Grandey, they appreciate this opportunity to have these creative outlets that the assignments that they're doing in these classes just reach for a different part of their brain than what they're doing in, problem sets for physics or things like that. So these become important opportunities to make sure that you're stretching your whole self while you're here. CJ, do you want to move to the next slide? So we wanted to talk just a little bit about what we actually mean when we say that first year honors is a community. Ryan mentioned this story about having the experience of actually getting to meet an author that we had read, whose work we had read in the ideas class. These are some of the kinds of things that we try to help foster in our community building in these programs, whether those are folks that we're bringing in, as CJ does extensively with the leadership portion of Leadership by Design in Grandey, or whether that's partnering with other events that are on campus and making sure our students see those things. It's easy to lose track of all the amazing things going on campus at any given time, and that they understand the value of those. And in addition to all of that, we have our own community events that we put on. And so we have an incredible associate director for community development, Allison Castor, who supervises a team of students. So these are former students from Thorson and from Grandey who understand the program, understand the community, and they are so excited about it that they want to help build it and maintain it moving forward. And so they design events that they think students will really be thrilled by, events that are going to kind of sort of occupy the spectrum from everything from these kind of quiet, cozy movie nights. Right now, we're in the midst of this Hobbits and Hobbies series where they're watching the Hobbit films and doing crafty hobbies, hanging out here in the cozy honors house, things like that, all the way up to hikes in the local beautiful wilderness or events that take us off campus. So actually, tomorrow night we are taking students from both programs to Meow Wolf, which is an immersive art experience here in Denver that some of you may have heard of. And we're taking them there not only just to explore and have fun, but also to engage with the design of this space, which is, something that really connects closely to the curriculum. And so we really try to make these experiences outside of the classroom not only help students get to know each other, help them form these incredibly important friendships, but also help them really understand the course content and the ideas from a new perspective and a new angle. We also have a dedicated living space for first year honor students. This is not required. There are plenty of wonderful signature learning communities here on campus that you might be interested in. But if you want that even deeper dive into the first year honors community, this is an amazing way to meet students even before classes start. You'll do hell of a welcome week activities together with your Honors Explore floor mates, roommates, and you'll have, an ability to form those friendships even before you come into the classroom. And we do see the effect of that, of students showing up on day one, already excited, already saying hi to their buddies, really eager to see what this class has in store for them, and already having that confidence of like, I kind of know these people, this is my crowd, I'm here and I'm ready to learn. And so that is a wonderful opportunity for those of you who are interested, but again, it is not required. And all of our community events are open to everyone in the programs. You definitely do not have to live in Spruce Hall in order to be part of the community. I think that's probably enough on that for now. CJ, do you want to take a stab at talking about our first year honors abroad?
Sure. Sure, I'd love to. So we have a very special partnership within First Year Honors with our first year semester abroad experience. And so with, that's a mouthful and a lot of acronyms, but with FYSAE, our study abroad experience opportunity for first year students, we have a collaboration as well. So regardless of whether you are a part of Thorson or you are a part of Grandey, you also have the opportunity to go spend a semester in Antibes, France, which is on the Mediterranean coast, somewhat near Monaco and Nice. And what participating in this partnership gets for you is you get to participate in this honors in these honors classes, but we also wow, I'm losing my words. We also make it so that these courses put you in the context of where you're at. So, for example, the Grandey students who participate in both of these programs go in the springtime. And so currently, the students there have just wrapped up a project called Antibes Obscura, where they have investigated the systems that make Antibes work and finding somewhat also, we're looking at hidden stories, right? We're looking at the hidden ways that Antibes works as a place, and also had them get out there and wander and really learn what it is to be a person living in Antibes, and having them bring that into their work. When you go abroad, you're still taking courses. You stay on track for graduation. Students will take physics and chemistry and French culture at a local university called Schema. And then there are also courses such as our Thorson or Leadership by Design that's offered in the Learning Center that's a part of our study abroad partners spaces there in Antibes. Lauren, do you want to say anything about the fall aspects or anything else that I missed?
Sure. I'll just sort of clarify or perhaps reiterate that the students who do the first year honors experience and first year semester abroad experience, when they go overseas, they're doing sort of a hybrid online course, right? So the students in Thorson who do this go in the fall. They're doing all of that introspective work, all of that initial kind of tight-knit community-oriented design work over in Antibes, and they are co-located. They're all living within a few minutes walk of each other. And so they can do group projects together. They can have all of the really rich discussions and experiences together, supported by an adjunct faculty that we hire specifically to teach this course, and that we hire specifically who understands the ethos that we're going for in honors pedagogy. But then they're also connecting with me, or for Grandey in the spring with CJ via online learning. And so we do have, online Zoom meetings, we have asynchronous coursework. So it's kind of this interesting mix of having the in-person experience and some degree of in-person class time, but also having the flexibility and asynchronous kind of structure of an online course. And so we really try to make this an opportunity for students to extend their coursework into their study abroad experience. So you're not just there sitting in a classroom, your coursework is actually asking you to go out into the community as part of what you're doing there. So we hear from students that this does help enrich their experiences, and especially you will hear from students who do first year semester abroad that they all love how much they can travel to other countries in Europe. Do that, that's amazing, but also get to know Antibes, right? This is an opportunity to really live in a different place. And first year honors, I think, pushes students to do that through the coursework that asks them to investigate the city and really explore the place where they're living and get to know it. We did have a question come up about FYSAE that I'll just go ahead and answer now. Are there opportunities to study abroad if we are not in first year semester abroad? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Many students go abroad in their second year, or there are summer programs if you want sort of a shorter situation. The caveat is, as you get farther into your major at Mines, it does become a little harder to study abroad. Part of the reason that Mary Cook designed the first year semester abroad program, which is quite unique and groundbreaking here at Mines, was to give engineering students more of this opportunity to study abroad while staying on track without adding on any semesters. Because as you get into your more specialized engineering coursework, particularly in the third and fourth years, it can be very difficult to find that kind of coursework abroad taught in English. So if you speak another language, I certainly have known a student who did study abroad in Spanish in South America, and was able to, speak and write in Spanish. And so that was an option for her. But if you're looking for English-based coursework, FYSAE is an incredible opportunity, and I do encourage you to at least just throw your hat in the ring, and see if that might be something that interests you. Okay. And then yes, so this other question, CJ, I'll just grab it since I'm talking.
Yep.
If a student prefers a particular semester for FYSAE, do they need to apply to the particular honors program that aligns with that semester? The answer is sort of yes, but also we will figure that out for you. When you apply for first year honors, it's one application, and CJ and I, look at all of them. And so you can indicate in your application, I'm really excited about Thorson, or I'm really excited about Grandey, or I'm equally excited about both. And we obviously take that into consideration. We want to put you in the program that you are most excited about. But if you can't decide, or if you apply and you're really excited about Thorson, but then you end up choosing to do first year semester abroad in the spring, frankly, we just reach out to you and say, hey, there's a mismatch here. Do you want to move to the fall abroad, or do you want to move to Grandey? So don't worry about that. Just apply for what excites you, and we will make it work. We will chat with you if there's any misunderstanding or misalignment. We are here to give as many students as possible these incredible experiences. We want you to do first year honors. We want you to do first year semester abroad. We think these are amazing programs. So we're not here to gatekeep it. We're here to make sure that you are aligned with the program that is going to be most fitting for you and that you are most excited about.
And I'll just add, there was one more question. You don't have to participate in first semester abroad or first year semester abroad to be a part of first year honors. This is just an extra opportunity that's available if you do want to do both.
Mm-hmm. Yes, important clarification.
Yeah. So now is the time where we'd like to open it up to any of the questions that you have. So please, if you have a question, type it in the Q&A. It can be for Katie and Ryan, or it can be for Lauren and I. We'd just be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I'll go ahead and start by answering this first one about housing. It says, what percentage of honor students live in the honors dorm? And typically, there have been about a third of students, maybe to a half, depending on the year, do live in our honors dorm. But it's definitely not a requirement to be a part of first year honors.
Yeah, I think it's usually closer to a half, but it does vary a little bit.
Yeah.
Katie, do you want to answer the question from Patrick? What is one of the most interesting projects a Grandey class or a Grandey student has worked on?
If we have the time, I'm going to say two of them because there's two really interesting projects that I still think back to, and we still do within the class. One of them is our mover projects, where you are designing something for someone else, is now how it works. But you design something that genuinely, like, you do a pass of like motion to make this object move. For me, I ended up making like a time turner that made like a little person in the center move. So it looked like he was running as I was like moving the time. I've seen somebody make a carousel where they cranked it, but they made it all out of wood. I've had somebody who's worked with Arduinos before, who's worked with Raspberry Pi, if you guys are familiar with that. To add like a technological aspect to it. It's really up to you on what this project looks like and how you basically bring it to like the level of somebody else, because you're making it for someone else. It's their interests, which honestly might be a little bit easier than just coming up with an idea on your own, because you're making something for somebody else and it brings this different kind of emotion into it. Besides that, there's also the Wicked Stories, Grand Challenges. How it works now is you delve into this wicked story. And if you're unfamiliar with the wicked story, it's a big issue. It's this big problem that's above who you are as like your single person and affects a large amount of people throughout the world. Examples, we've talked about nuclear energy. I did mine with genetic engineering and genetic medicine. And for me, I really liked delving into the grand challenge of bettering medicine because we got to look into the future of how do we solve this problem? and we get to apply everything that we've learned in Grandey. And it's this culmination moment of, wow, I did that. And at the very end, we have the symposium where we show everybody what we imagined for this future and how we've solved the problem.
Thanks, Katie. Let's see. The next question here is it common for student athletes to be in either honors program? And I'll answer it since I'm talking, Lauren, unless you want to chime in here. But yes, we have student athletes who participate every year in both honors programs. I've had swimmers and wrestlers and runners and all sorts of people. So you don't have to choose. These are most of the opportunities at Mines are not exclusive. You can do lots of things and get involved with about anything that you'd like to.
I don't want to neglect this question that came in early on. When can we expect to hear back on our application if we submit by the priority deadline? So the priority deadline is March 9th. I know that's coming up really soon, so don't be scared if you feel like there's no way I can apply by March 9th. This is a priority deadline, just meaning that this is going to be sort of the end of our first round of application review, where we make sure that everyone who submits by March 9th is kind of considered in the same applicant pool, and those are the students who have the best chance of getting into their preferred program. But we continue to admit students on a rolling basis after that, and typically that means we're continuing to review applications and admit students even through the month of April, sometimes even past National Decision Day, which is May 1st. But our goal is to make sure that if you apply by March 9th, you will definitely hear from us well before the May 1st National Decision Day so that you have this information as you're weighing your decisions, right? So there's spring break falls in there in mid-March for us, but you will definitely hear from us. If you apply by March 9th, you'll hear from us in early April, if not a little bit sooner. So again, part of the reason that we have this priority deadline is to make sure that you hear from us well in advance of May 1st, but also part of it is to help make sure that if you're interested in first year honors and first year semester abroad, you kind of have both of those things in progress at the same time, because the first year semester abroad application has a hard deadline of March 15th, which is coming up real soon here in 10 days. And the reason for that deadline has to do with the visa application process, which is quite lengthy. So if you're interested in first year semester abroad, definitely don't miss the March 15th deadline. It would be great to have your application in for first year honors by then as well, but it's not necessary. We continue to admit students into the abroad sections, for as long as we have space in those collaborative sections as well. There's a question here about whether there's continuations of honors after the first year. So I'll just quickly clarify from a structural standpoint. First year honors is just the first year. You are not committing to an entire honors pathway at Mines. This is a little different than you may be experiencing if you're looking at other colleges that have like an honors college, where you take all of your coursework in the honors college, or you have a particular pathway that extends through the 4 years. We do things a little bit differently at Mines because we want you to have this really sort of modular experience where you get to choose what are the enriching experiences that are going to be good for you. And that might be first year honors plus McBride honors, which I'll invite Ryan and Katie to talk about in a moment. Or it might be first year honors plus future energy leadership scholars. Or it might be first year honors plus undergraduate research, or any number of these opportunities, right? So there isn't a single pathway after the first year. But if you do first year honors, you're going to be well set up to experience or engage with any of these other honors and scholars opportunities. And I should clarify that you don't have to do first year honors to access any of these other things. All of this is choose your own adventure. We have a menu of options, and we want you to have that agency in figuring out what is going to be best for you. So Ryan, why don't you say a few words about McBride Honors? This is our honors program that extends from year 2 through graduation, and this actually comes with a minor in public affairs. So this is a more involved, kind of lengthier program to commit to. Ryan, do you want to talk about McBride?
Yeah, absolutely. So, both for the record, both Katie and I are both in McBride. I've had lots of classes with her, so it's good to see a familiar face. But McBride, I've been in for 2 years. And as Lauren mentioned, it is sort of grounded in the public affairs domain. So we explore anything from policy issues to creative challenges, sort of both relating to kind of Thorson and Grandey. It's kind of getting that holistic worldview on top of the engineering degree, which is a really, really important skill set as we move into challenges that can't just be solved via technical solutions. I have personally really enjoyed it. My first year, I took classes like diving into food culture and how food impacts our daily lives and how we can tell stories through food. And then I just recently, one of the major components of McBride is taking a practicum course, which is a chance to design your own learning experience. And I recently wrapped that up this past semester, and I got the chance to dive into the Utah desert ecosystem, both through the technical, like biological lens of looking at the organisms within the ecosystem and the humanitarian lens as well. So looking at how ranching and how early settlers, I guess, and native people have told their stories throughout time within that landscape. And it was one of the coolest projects I've ever gotten to work on. I've met so many incredible people. And it kind of set me up for what I hope to do for the rest of my life. So, again, McBride is just one of those chances where you get the chance to learn more about your world and really really focus on your passions and what you want to do with your life. There's so many opportunities to pursue your passions, especially with that practicum project that again have set me up to have a successful career as an engineer and just as a well-rounded human. So I'll throw it over to Katie because I know Katie's had some pretty high up positions in McBride, so she can speak on maybe a little bit more of the logistics.
I'll actually leave it like with Ryan. You said it very beautifully. I will reiterate that it is not contingent that you are in first year honors to also apply for McBride. But if you do first year honors and you're also interested in McBride, we motivate you to apply. We're looking for very intrinsically motivated students, which we find a lot in first year honors. But it does not mean you have to do McBride if you do first year honors either. But that is something that you look for more so in at the end of your first semester at Mines, and you begin applying in your second semester. So.
All right. Well, thank you both. We have a few questions rolling in here, so I'll take a stab at a few of them. We had one that just came in asking about the Harvey and Grewcock scholars. Those are definitely compatible with first year honors. They're great programs and they operate separately, but once again, it's not something that you have to choose an either or, so you can be involved in both of those. I did have an interesting question here too, asking about the classes that first year honors replaces. And so I could just tell you really briefly what happens in those classes. So in Haas 100, Nature and Human Values, in that class, you spend a lot of time thinking about the ethics of engineering and science work, and you look at case studies from history of developments that have happened and investigate the impacts that engineering and science has upon society. It is a communication class as well, so you learn about research and writing and presenting. And then the cornerstone class is also called Introduction to Design. And so that class is perhaps a bit more familiar to an engineering course you may have taken on in high school. You are split into teams and you're given a project prompt that you address for the whole semester. And within that semester, you go through a design process where you're identifying the problem, you come up with prototypes, you model that your solution, you write a report about it, and then you also present it. So it's taking you through a bit more of a traditional design journey on a single open-ended problem versus in Grandey and Thorson. You're also given open-ended problems, but they oftentimes involve more aspects from other disciplines, right? So we're not just looking at an engineering problem. We're also looking at societal impacts and the effects of spaces on where we're at and things like that. Lauren, would you like to answer this question about creative submissions?
Yeah, so I'm hoping that I understand the question correctly, that they're talking about creative submissions to the first year honors application. So I do want to emphasize that our first year honors application, again, this covers both Thorson and Grandey. We give you some options here. So you're asked to answer a question that is essentially, why do you want to be in one or either of these programs? And we want that to be an authentic, plain English answer. You don't need to get formal with us. You don't need to get fancy. That really is as straightforward as it sounds. Why do you want to do this? Because again, we are looking to match students with programs that are going to enrich their experience at Mines. And so that's the purpose of that question, is just to get your honest answer. And then we do ask for a couple of other pieces that will help us then sort of assess your thinking and the ways that you engage with interdisciplinary thinking and learning, which again is something that we are cultivating and teaching in first year honors, but we want to make sure that that's something that you also have a little bit of interest in. And so for the creative submission, this doesn't have to be something that you create new for us. If you choose to submit an art piece, this doesn't need to be a new art piece. It can be something that you've done already. We've had students do both. So we've had students sort of create something that they're like, I'm trying to express my interest in interdisciplinarity, and here it is. And we've had other students who look back at things they've done in high school, maybe in a summer program, and say, you know, this really kind of exemplifies my creative expression. This says something about who I am and the way that I see the world. And we give you an option, or not an option, an opportunity, a required opportunity to explain what you're trying to say with that creative piece. So this is an opportunity to say, hey, here's a medium that I enjoy working in, or here's a topic that I'm really interested in, and then here's what I actually think written out. So I don't know if I can pull an example off the top of my head from last year's applications, and I wouldn't want to share current application content. But we've definitely seen things that range from sculpture and paintings. I know we've had students submit baked goods in the past. I remember there was once a video submission of like a student baking a cake and talking about the ways that it combines, you know, science and the arts, and that was really interesting. So it should feel personal to you, right? Don't worry about trying to wow us. We want this to be an opportunity to get to know you, because if we had the capacity to interview every applicant, that would be our choice. And there's just no way. So think of it as just a conversation you're having with us and an opportunity to help us get to know you. We have a number of questions that came in in the registration. A lot of them I think we've already answered, but I did want to just touch on this one really quickly. You do not have to commit to Mines in order to apply for first year honors or first year semester abroad. The timing of these is before National Decision Day. And again, we want you to have the information about these programs as part of your decision-making process if you're not sure about Mines or the other universities that you're applying to. So you don't have to commit to Mines in order to apply. You do have to be admitted to Mines in order to apply, but I think that's going to be the case for everybody in this audience at this point. A lot of questions come in about this, and I'd love to hear just briefly from both of our students. What is the time commitment like as a student in first year honors? Is this, you know, a much harder class? Is the workload really high? Is this going to interfere with, we already heard about athletics, but there's all kinds of things that students want to get involved with in terms of clubs. How do you manage all of that? And what does the time commitment feel like relative to your other classes in your first year? Katie, why don't you start this time?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't think it kept me from other experiences in any way. I was also involved with undergraduate research, and I also had an on-campus job at this point. that I was putting in about 10 to 12 hours for those. So you still have the ability to do those extracurriculars. You can also join clubs at the same time. Highly recommend. But besides that, I believe that it depends on how much effort you're putting into the course. Um, your best is not necessarily what needs to be like your best that you've ever achieved in your entire life does not need to be what you put into this one project. The best that you can do at that time is what is being asked. So long as you are completing these topics, you're understanding them, and you're bringing them to fruition, that is kind of what I was going off of. Because this really begins that balancing act because it changes so much from your high school experience when you begin college. And I can't emphasize it enough that you will need your support systems, you will need those study groups. And even in Grandey, even though there were no exams, it was still working collaboratively, understanding these different problems and working together to get it done. So I would say that it wasn't any more work than my other classes or as much work as I was putting in for those other courses.
Ryan, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I absolutely second what Katie said. I actually, like I've talked about, kind of found this work to kind of be a break and refresher using your brain in just different ways. From some of the other core classes that you'll have to take, like calculus and physics at Mines, and I just remember it being like a good break, and yeah, not being too much of a honestly, it's probably more interesting in my opinion than the two classes you would be taking, regardless, NHV and design. So I consider that a benefit.
And I will say, probably one or two students per cohort, I end up having a conversation with at some point who is putting too much into any given assignment. In ideas, we have what we call the ideas journal, and that has these weekly assignments that are meant to be process work to try to kind of engage with a reading or engage with a new technique, or a new mode of expression. And sometimes a student will just get really excited about those and pour, 3 or 4 hours into one IJ assignment and then, come to me and say, what do I do? I can't sustain this. And so we have those conversations of this is part of the first year experience is figuring out how to manage your time, figuring out how to understand what your professors are asking of you. And that sort of mentorship that you get from your first year honors professors is something that we have kind of the time and the capacity and the inclination for that you're not necessarily going to find in your, Physics 1 lecture course, or, some of these other first year courses that are going to be just a very different kind of structure and experience. And so if students are struggling with the workload, we become then resources to help them understand how they can, address their time management and things like that, as well as the CSM 101, first year success seminar, I think is what they call it.
Mhm.
Okay. So we've got some slides here that we want to help you make sure that you can keep track of everything that's going on. Again, first year honors, first year semester abroad are two separate programs. You don't have to do both. You can do both, and we want you to know that both of them exist. Our priority deadline for first year honors is coming up soon here on March 9th, but you can continue to apply after that date with rolling admissions. And then the application deadline for first year semester abroad is in 10 days on March 15th, and that is a hard cutoff. There will be no applications accepted after March 15th for that program. But again, if you're interested in both, you don't have to apply for first year honors by March 15th. We continue to look at the cohort who's going abroad and continue to talk with them about this opportunity for the months following that. If you're interested in our housing, our signature learning community, that has its own application as well. I know there are so many applications, such is the structure of bureaucracy, but that's a small piece of your housing application that you would fill out later on. But just to kind of have that in your mind that you don't automatically get placed into that because it is optional. So it's something you have to indicate your interest in, and that application will be due on May 4th. The first year honors and first year semester abroad applications are both in your Minds admissions portal. It's probably the easiest place to find them. There should be a tab for first year experiences and scholarships. If you would rather, you can go to the first year honors website, and we've got a link there, or you can go to the first year semester abroad website, and they have a link to theirs. And then, do you want to grab the next slide, CJ?
Yep.
If you have questions for us, again, if you want to ask questions of myself or CJ, we monitor the Thorson and Grandey email inboxes, but those inboxes are a better place to send your questions than our personal emails so that they don't get lost. If you have questions for either of our student ambassadors, their emails are up here as well. If you have questions about first year semester abroad, you can email Mary Cook or, of course, either CJ or myself through the honors inboxes, and we're happy to answer your questions or forward them on to Mary. Is the Signature Learning Community the same dorm as first year honors? Yes, that's the fancy name for it, but the first year honors students, if you want to live together, it's called Honors Explore Signature Learning Community, and it's in Spruce Hall. Great question. Happy to answer more of these questions. We do have to let you all go. It's 5:01, but please feel free to email us or compile your questions, send them along, and we will get back to you as quickly as we can.
And this webinar will be posted on the admissions YouTube channel. And I thank you so much for being here. It's been lovely chatting, I guess, with all of you. And thanks to Katie and Ryan as well. We look forward to seeing all of your applications.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful night.